In the first paragraph, we are introduced to Jasmine, a then 14-year-old girl who excelled in everything. She was an honor in college prep classes while maintaining a 3.6 GPA. She had multiple extracurricular activities, and she aspired to be a doctor. But little did her parents know that she would party and have sex on the weekends. She would sneak out and go to parties. She would chat with older guys on online chat rooms. At one point, she says that she has been date raped before, but that it was her fault because she wasn't being smart. Jasmine said that she would constantly lie to her parents. She didn't want to deal with the lectures. There were, however, some times when she would tell her mom things just to get the lectures. She thought that if her mom was giving her the lectures, then that meant she cared. Now, Jasmine says that she'll tell her parents eventually, but after she's grown up and has a career. She doesn't want her parents to worry. Darling and Caldwell began an experiment. They first thought that they would have the graduate students interview high school students, but after further contemplation, they realized that high school students wouldn't feel comfortable talking to superiors. So instead, they would have undergrad students interview those high school students about what they would lie to their parents about. The most shocking thing about the results was why the high schoolers lie. It wasn't because they didn't want to get in trouble, but rather they didn't want to ruin their relationship with their parents. They didn't want to have their parents be disappointed in them. Like Jasmine, many teenagers like rules and discipline, surprisingly, but it shows them that their parents care. While the less rules approach to parenting can actually make the teenager feel like the parent doesn't care. And that's not saying that more rules is better. Being a strict parent often leads to a deceptive child, but having an understanding with your child and knowledge that arguing is a good thing and it is a productive thing is very important. The study also goes on to talk about how 96% of high schoolers are lying to their parents about something, while 78% of parents feel like their teen could go and talk with them about anything. It's a big difference. But teens don't like going to their parents about things because it can make them feel like they're not mature enough to handle the situation. Now, personally, I haven't gone to my parents with a lot of things because I felt like they would view me in a less mature light while I was just trying to be independent. So I would take on a lot of things by myself, situations by myself, instead of going to a parent for help. Many parents also think that the risky years are in high school and that the age that teenagers will rebel is the most. However, according to Darling and Caldwell, the rebellion starts at age 11 and peaks around 14 and 15 and then decreases as the child gets older. So it's not they are a little rebellious at 11, even more at 15, and it peaks at 18. No. It starts at a younger age, and as that child matures, they become more rebellious until they realize that there are other things in life to argue about, I guess. And so then it decreases between 16 to 18, and there's less rebellion at those ages. Also, a study was done to see how teenagers react to getting a reward. Now, how this study was done is they had a video game that would give a single coin as a reward, or a stack of coins, or a big pile of coins as a reward. Now with kids, when they got any type of reward, whether it was small, medium, or large, they had a huge reaction in their brain, while adults, they would have, a small reaction with the single coin, a medium reaction with the stack, and a big reaction with the pile of money. But teenagers seem to only get a reaction in their brain when they get the highest amount of reward. Teenagers are also only able to think abstractly and not feel abstractly. This is why teenagers do stupid things. They think about the situation, but they don't think of what it can do to them and make them feel. Another study was done that asked teenagers and adults questions, and these questions were horrible. They included very easy questions to answer, like, would you want to take your dog on a walk? Would you want to go shopping? And then they had more difficult questions, which were, would you bite down on a light bulb, or swallow a cockroach, or swim with sharks? And when the adults were tested, they answered almost immediately. They could feel the pain. They could feel abstractly, while teenagers took longer to answer, as if they were actually thinking about the situation. Well, of course they would think about it, but they couldn't feel the situation like the adults could. They were debating on whether or not they should do the action. Because, yeah, maybe biting down on a light bulb would be cool, but it's not going to feel good, and the human body doesn't actively do things to try to feel pain. After finishing the chapter, it's a very interesting thing. Throughout the chapter, we even taught that parenting isn't like it is supposed to be in the books. It's different. And there's many different parenting styles, I guess. And you can go about things in very different ways, but they're going to have reactions. So there's very strict parents who have their kids lie to them a lot. And then there's the less rule approach to parenting, where it's very laid back. And those situations are when, teenagers feel like their parents don't care. But there's a relation to a higher satisfaction with children as with parents when they have there's strict rules, but there's flexibility with those rules. So there's a lot of parents that will have rules, but if a kid breaks them, it's too much just to discipline them, so they just yell at them and it's whatever, rather than actually following through with that action. But studies show that when you are strict and discipline your child as you have said, then that creates results. But also, if that child does say, hey, I know my curfew's 11, but there's this really special occasion. Can I extend it out? And that's where a parent needs to understand that flexibility, not, well, your curfew's 11, you can't go, you have to be home at 11 kind of a thing, but that, okay, well, only for this one night you can come home at 1 a.m. And what I thought was super interesting in this chapter is that kids or teenagers like arguing, and arguing is a positive thing instead of a negative thing. And the only really people who view it as negative and destructive are the parents, while children view it as their opportunity to be independent and to be honest and more understanding. I thought that was very, very interesting. And from learning from this and what I'm going to do in my future is that when I have kids, I'm definitely not going to be a super strict parent, but I'm also going to be strict in my own ways. I'm going to be flexible, and I'm going to try to understand that, kids have their own things and they're going to lie no matter what. And I mean, as you can see, 96% of kids lie. That's a huge amount. And whether it's lying about what music they listen to or lying that they're having sex and doing drugs, there's a whole different section of it. And I think that it's very interesting to see everything in this chapter. And I really recommend to read this chapter to anyone struggling with their teenager or going to have a teenager or is a teenager like me and is kind of understanding why I've done these actions in my past. So yeah, that's chapter 7.